Ever wondered how antipsychotic medications actually work? These medications are a cornerstone in treating conditions like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, but the science behind them can seem complex. We're going to demystify that process. Let's break it down in under 2 minutes. We'll focus on the key mechanisms and pathways involved, providing a clear and concise explanation. No complicated jargon, just the essential information you need to understand how these drugs impact the brain. Most antipsychotics work by blocking certain receptors in the brain. Think of receptors as docking stations for chemical messengers. When antipsychotics block these stations, they prevent certain signals from being transmitted. This interference is key to alleviating symptoms of psychosis. Specifically, they target dopamine D2 receptors in the brain. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward. However, in conditions like schizophrenia, dopamine activity can become overactive, leading to a cascade of problematic symptoms. This blockade is especially important in the mesolimbic pathway. This pathway plays a crucial role in regulating emotions and behavior. By modulating dopamine activity here, antipsychotics can effectively reduce the intensity of psychotic symptoms. This reduces the positive symptoms of psychosis. Positive symptoms are those that add to or distort a person's experience of reality. These can be the most distressing and disruptive aspects of psychotic disorders, like hallucinations and delusions. Hallucinations involve perceiving things that aren't there, while delusions are fixed, false beliefs that are not based in reality. By dampening dopamine's effects, antipsychotics can bring significant relief from these symptoms. But blocking dopamine elsewhere in the brain causes side effects. It's important to remember that dopamine is involved in many different brain functions, not just those related to psychosis. This widespread involvement is why antipsychotics can have a range of side effects. For example, D2 blockade in the mesolimbic pathway, as we discussed, is beneficial for reducing psychosis. It's the primary mechanism by which these medications exert their therapeutic effects on positive symptoms. Means fewer hallucinations and delusions, leading to a clearer and more grounded perception of reality. This can significantly improve a person's ability to function in daily life and interact with others. However, in the nigrostriatal pathway, which is responsible for motor control and coordination, dopamine blockade can have negative consequences. This pathway is essential for smooth, voluntary movements. It can cause movement problems, such as stiffness, tremors, and involuntary movements. These are known as extrapyramidal side effects, or EPS, and can be quite distressing for individuals taking these medications. Similarly, in the tuberoinfundibular pathway, which connects the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, dopamine blockade can disrupt hormonal regulation. This pathway normally inhibits prolactin release. It can increase prolactin levels, a hormone involved in milk production and reproductive function. Elevated prolactin can lead to a range of side effects, including menstrual irregularities in women and sexual dysfunction in both men and women. Atypical antipsychotics, also known as second-generation antipsychotics, represent a newer class of medications designed to address some of the limitations of the older, typical antipsychotics. They offer a more nuanced approach to neurotransmitter modulation. These medications also block serotonin 5-HT2A receptors, in addition to dopamine D2 receptors. Serotonin is another key neurotransmitter involved in mood regulation, sleep, and appetite. This helps balance dopamine activity in the brain. By modulating both dopamine and serotonin, atypical antipsychotics achieve a more refined effect on brain circuitry. This dual action reduces movement side effects compared to typical antipsychotics. The serotonin blockade helps to mitigate the impact of dopamine blockade in the nigrostriatal pathway and may improve negative symptoms of schizophrenia, which are often more difficult to treat than positive symptoms. Negative symptoms include things like blunted affect, social withdrawal, and lack of motivation. Like lack of motivation and reduced emotional expression. By targeting both dopamine and serotonin, atypical antipsychotics can have a broader impact on overall functioning and quality of life. So, D2 plus 5-HT2. A blockade offers a more balanced approach to managing psychosis. It's a key difference between typical and atypical antipsychotics. This means fewer movement side effects, making the medication more tolerable for many individuals. This improved tolerability can lead to better adherence to treatment and ultimately better outcomes, and better mood and cognition, contributing to a greater sense of well-being and improved daily functioning. This can have a profound impact on a person's ability to engage in work, relationships, and other meaningful activities. However, it's important to note that these medications also block other receptors in the brain to varying degrees. This broader receptor profile contributes to the unique side effect profiles of each individual medication, which explains their diverse range of side effects. The affinity of a particular antipsychotic for different receptors determines which side effects are more likely to occur. For example, blocking H1 receptors, which are involved in regulating sleep and alertness, can lead to certain outcomes. These receptors play a crucial role in the sleep-wake cycle, can cause sedation and weight gain. This is because histamine also plays a role in regulating metabolism and appetite. Similarly, blocking alpha-1 receptors, which are involved in regulating blood pressure, can lead to certain effects. These receptors are found in blood vessels throughout the body. Blocking M1 receptors, also known as muscarinic receptors, which are part of the cholinergic system, can also have specific consequences. This system is involved in a wide range of functions, including memory, attention, and digestion, can cause dry mouth and constipation, among other anticholinergic side effects. These side effects can be uncomfortable and may require additional management. Let's do a quick comparison to summarize the key differences we've discussed. Typical versus atypical antipsychotics. Understanding their distinct mechanisms and side effect profiles. This comparison will highlight the evolution of antipsychotic medications and their impact on patient care. Typical or first-generation antipsychotics represent the older class of these medications. They were the first to be developed and introduced into clinical practice. Mainly block D2 receptors as their primary mechanism of action. This potent D2 blockade is effective in reducing positive symptoms but comes with a higher risk of certain side effects. Atypical, or second-generation antipsychotics, were developed later to address some of the limitations of typical antipsychotics. They offer a more refined approach to neurotransmitter modulation. These newer medications block both D2 and serotonin receptors, providing a more balanced effect on brain chemistry. This dual action is key to their improved side effect profile, specifically 5-HT2A receptors. This serotonin blockade helps to mitigate the dopamine-related side effects seen with typical antipsychotics. Because of their primary focus on D2 receptor blockade, typical antipsychotics have a higher risk of movement side effects, also known as extrapyramidal symptoms or EPS. These can include Parkinsonism, dystonia, and tardive dyskinesia. Atypical antipsychotics, with their dual action, generally have a lower risk and can better relieve negative symptoms of schizophrenia, which are often resistant to treatment with typical antipsychotics. This makes them a valuable option for individuals struggling with these debilitating symptoms. So, that's how antipsychotics work in your brain. We've covered the key mechanisms, pathways, and differences between typical and atypical medications. Understanding these principles can empower you to have more informed conversations with your healthcare provider. Want more simplified mental health videos? We're dedicated to providing clear, concise, and accessible information about mental health conditions and treatments. Like, comment, and follow. Your engagement helps us create more content and reach a wider audience. Thanks for watching.